internet and get live streaming at bnntv.org.
Is it going to air tonight?
Yes, and it live streams at the same time, so it will be at 5:30. That is the whole show. So this won't be at the very beginning of the show, but somewhere in the middle you get this. And so it's 5:30, 9:30, and 11 tonight. Okay. As we mentioned tonight, supporters of education reform are claiming a victory at the State House, but the push for reform and to close the achievement gap has also been a campaign inside the school system. At one end is the acceleration agenda presented by Superintendent Carol Johnson. Among those trying to influence her plans are Boston students. Two of them are with us tonight, working group members from the Boston Student Advisory Council. We'd like to welcome a student from the Edward M. Kennedy Academy for Health Careers, Ayan Hassan, and that's a charter school. And also with us is a student from Boston Arts Academy, a pilot school, who's an alternate representative to the Boston School Committee, Esteniolla Maitre. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
I want to start with Esteniolla Maitre. First of all, this isn't just students responding to something the superintendent did. You've really been working on this for a long time.
Yes, we've actually been working on some of these policies for 2 years, specifically the homework policy. We just basically took that policy that's already set in place in the BPS handbook that we get every year, all students, all parents, and we added some edits to it. And then we have the constructive feedback policy to the teachers and the teacher hiring process one, where students would be involved in the teacher hiring process that has been set in place. We've been trying to work on that for like a year or so. And then we have a relatively new policy where we try to get more student representation and a student vote on the school committee, the BPS school committee.
Ayan Hassan, talk about the homework. This isn't about the workload. This is about effective homework.
Of course not. We want students to do have homework, but we're arguing that we want quality, not quantity. We feel like homework should be a tool that should be helped when you go home to go over what you learned in the classroom. And teachers should grade the student on effort and also if they did the problem well, not like it's a test or a quiz grade.
One thing I've always wondered about with homework, you do it at home, the parents might help, or an older brother or sister might help, so is it fair to just give a grade on what the kid brings into school?
I mean, sometimes the argument you can make is sometimes students don't have that help at home, and sometimes students are struggling in the classroom. Sometimes homework can show the teacher that the student is not learning well in the classroom, and also that could be an opportunity where a student can reach out to you and say, you know what, I'm not getting this, maybe help me after school. And that's what we're about the whole policy, that we don't want it to be this tension, but we want homework to help, and that's what we're saying, it should be a helping tool.
Esteniolla, one of the other things I was intrigued by is having the teachers set expectations for homework and being really clear about it.
Yes.
Why is that important?
Set expectations for homework?
Right.
I think it's really important because therefore it gives a benchmark for the student to achieve, I guess you can say. If you give them an expectation, it's a challenge, so therefore they would want to not only meet it, but exceed it. I know a lot of my peers and myself would want to exceed it, so therefore we can show the teacher that we actually are very dedicated to the work that we have in front of us. The only problem we're having now, the reason why we have the homework policy in place, is because there's a lot of busy work going around in the BPS system, and it's not really expectations that are being set in place. It's just work that does not reflect what's going on in the classroom, does not reflect what's going on in the syllabus that is handed out every year to students, which should be handed out every year to students. And so I feel like expectations will be set in place and exceeded once the homework reflects the actual work that we're learning in classrooms.
And Hassan, you're in the charter school. Is that a problem too, the busy work?
I go to Horseman, which means it's charter and public.
Charter, right.
And my teachers, they do give efficient homework. There's sometimes when we have a lot of quality and also quantity of homework. But I think a lot of teachers that I've talked to and the students that sometimes we do get a lot of busy work, but sometimes we know those homework are quality, and then we can actually learn from those homeworks.
Esteniolla, what about students giving feedback on teachers or even somehow playing a role in evaluating them? Explain what you have in mind.
For the constructive feedback forums for teachers, it would only be feedback given to the teacher, to the administration, and they would converse among themselves about the feedback. It would only be to give the teacher a chance to, if they're not performing to the level that the students expect or the BTU expects or the administration, it would just give them a chance to reflect on the feedback and improve their qualities. It would also give them a chance to learn how great of a teacher they are, if they are a great teacher. I feel like this policy that we're trying to set in place is very essential because it actually relates to the acceleration agenda that the superintendent has set in place, where one of her main goals is to eliminate the quote-unquote bad teachers, I guess you can say, and make sure that the good teachers remain. So it would definitely build up the relationship between students and teachers.
And also, like BSAC, and students, we are in the classroom. We know what happens behind doors are closed. We know that sometimes teachers are doing an amazing job and they should definitely get acknowledged. And we also, some teachers are struggling and they might not be doing their job well, so having this feedback, that can be a tool and a guide for, okay, you know what, I'm not doing this right in the classroom. Let me see how I can change my, my teaching plan. And of us, we're in the classroom, we know what a good teacher is and what a bad teacher is. And us having involved in the teacher hiring process can make the school system better.
I want to turn the table a little bit, Ayan, because we've often heard how hard it is to fairly evaluate students, even with a standardized test. Can you be fair with teachers? I mean, will students always be objective? Because there could be some bad feelings between this or that student and this and that teacher.
Of course, I think that could also play a role, but I think at the end of the day, students, we do want to learn. We want to have a higher education. We do want to succeed. And sometimes also does teachers, they want their students to succeed. The problem that we have is that maybe we're not communicating together well, and maybe this feedback can be like, could open the doors to have that conversation. Okay, you know what am I not doing right for my students in the classroom? They're not having that. I think students, we might have issues with teachers, but at the end of the day, we know if they're doing a good job, they're doing a good job, and leave our personal feelings on the side.
Esteniolla, what about involvement in teacher hiring? What should the role of students be in that?
As it stands right now, there is a committee at each school that evaluates the teachers and hires the teachers. We were just basically saying that a student would sit on that committee and be able to ask at least a couple of interview questions. In addition, the teacher would be able to teach a class before they're actually hired, so that the students would get a feel of how the teacher is and whether or not they would be able to work with them, and what are their bad qualities, what are their good qualities, and stuff like that.
Right. You heard a lot of students say that this is an important thing. What would a student bring, you think, to that kind of a setting?
A student can bring in their own personal stories, what happened when they had good teachers and how their learning ability went up, or when they had a bad teacher in the classroom and things were not going well. And we know how we learn, and we know how us teenagers think, and we know what we want out of a good quality teacher, and if having us on the board and having us in the process, that can basically bring good teachers in the school system.
One other question, Esteniolla, about student representation on the school committee. Now, there is a representative to the school committee. You're the alternate, so explain how this would be different.
We have currently Mike Davis. What school does he go to again?
He goes to
East Boston High School. Is the current school committee representative for students, and then I am the alternate. Basically, it would be like both of us would be on the panel. And not only that, he would have a vote. As it stands right now, Massachusetts state law says that the student does not have a vote on the panel. So we would have more representation, more student voice if he had a vote, and if we had more students. So therefore, we have diverse opinions on the panel.
Ayan, the way things are done now, there are many people who can throw their hats in the ring, but the mayor gets the call on who gets on the committee. Should that apply to the student?
I don't think so, because I think working with Boston State Advice, working with Jenny and Maria and youth on board, they train us in a way that we know the policies, we know what's going on in the legal system in Boston, that they know as personal what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are, so they should probably have a role in picking who should be the student representative.
So, what you've also done in working on these policies, you've had meetings with school officials. How have they been treating you?
Yes, we've had meetings with the executive team on the school committee, personally with the superintendent, with the chairperson. We have meetings with the headmasters of all BPS headmasters. We've had meetings with the teachers. We have been receiving great feedback. I think a little bit of concern on the homework policy, but overall they actually really like it. And most of the feedback that we're getting is to improve the policy so that we can eventually get them passed in this year or the upcoming year.
All right, well, thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Ayan Hassan and Esteniolla Maitre from the Boston Student Advisory Council.
Thank you.
With more school options, students... Oh, great. All right, I didn't even have to talk anymore. Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It was wonderful. You're very persuasive. You know, I mean, you're...